Good morning, everybody. It is day one of a crossing of the Drake Passage, and this is about as rough as it's going to get. We've got about, what did they say, 3-meter waves, and winds blowing right at 40 knots. So I don't know what we're going to have to do today, but I'll show you.
So in episode 3, we warned against the dangers of all-inclusive and a sea day, and was definitely paying a little bit of the price for that with a headache this morning. So I went down to Seabourn Square, grabbed a double-shot latte, then headed up to the bow lounge to see what we could see from the instrumentation, and watch the ship pitch up and down as we crossed the Drake Passage.
No.
And as it turns out, watching the ship go bobbing up and down while you're on an empty coffee stomach and a little bit hungover is not the greatest strategy for feeling good for the rest of the day. So I quickly realized with the seas higher than I thought, maybe it was time to head back to the suite for a little relaxation. Now, a nice feature of Seabourn on this ship is that any event that's happening in the Discovery Center, you can watch either live on TV or catch a recording of those activities later on in the day, which is good because pretty much the entire front of the ship was a little green this morning. So after watching Jeff Bullied's presentation on an introduction to Antarctica and catching a few tips from Max on photography, I figured it was time to head back to the bow lounge for round 2. And in the bow lounge, they have soups, they have a couple of drinks, coffee machines. So I grabbed a nice cold and soothing ginger ale, looked at where we were on the computer screens, and once again tempted fate by staring at the window at the bow, moving up and down. And believe it or not, the seas are actually starting to come down a little bit. Those waves breaking were much less than they were just 3 hours before. Now, I was reading a book on this trip about Shackleton, so I was excited to hear Bob Egelstaff talk about the heroic age of Antarctic exploration.
On the west, Captain Scott's base was on the other side of the continent to where we are. So the name of the continent, and you can read here that the stars above the North Pole were called Arctos, the bear, in Greek, and the South Pole was called opposite the bear, or Anti-Arctos, and Aristotle, the Greek philosopher, deduced that the world needed to be counterbalanced by a southern continent, which he called Antarcticus.
Here's one for the reading list about the Belgica and its trials in Antarctica.
Hey, so a little bit before 5, and what started out the day is the pretty moderately high seas is now flattened out into the Drake Lake. Beautiful now. Got 55 degrees.
You have any deck 6? Oh no. No?
Just battle on deck 6.
Okay, we're on our first full day still. Seas have flattened, winds are down to probably less than 10 knots. This will tell you how it was, because we're batting down pretty good outside Seabourn Square. Yeah, and kind of don't even need the hat right now. Pretty nice.
Now, a little on Seabourn Square, it's probably our favorite place on the ship to spend the daytime waking hours anyway. Not only because of the tremendous barista, the gelato, the fresh baked croissants, which are baking in an oven that you can see right behind the counter, but it's also an area where there are games being played, great conversations, guest services, and the future cruise desk as well as just some lovely chairs to pull up and read a book in. Another great place is the club, and the club now has sushi every single night at about 6:15, and so our pre-dinner snack was actually a load of sashimi and sushi, which was delicious. But we didn't spoil our appetite too much, because tonight was the chef's special dinner in the restaurant, a multi-course affair starting with the caviar salmon appetizer, We had sorbet served in between courses to cleanse our palates, and some tremendous wine before lighting into some broiled buttered lobster. Oh, and don't forget dessert, which was the deconstructed tiramisu. Our night would end on our first night crossing the Drake with the fabulous Olivia. Now, Olivia is not only a tremendous cruise director, she's seemingly everywhere on the ship all at once. So whether it's leading our trivia efforts, or it's serving caviar on deck, or belting out some tremendous show tunes from Les Mis or Hamilton, Olivia really made the expedition special. Day 2 is now upon us, and there's things that we need to get done today, starting with the boot sizing and distribution down in the mudroom, and a mandatory in-person briefing from IAATO, which sets the rules of the road for setting foot on Antarctica, as well as a biosecurity screening of any gear that wasn't brand new and out of the box, which needed to be checked for spores, seeds, etc. for contamination. So a lot to do today, but we'll get things started with Aussie Greg talking about krill, with a shout out to Brad Pitt and Matt Damon characters in Happy Feet 2.
But this is such a good idea, having Will and Bill Krill who couldn't deal with their lives.
Krill not only is vital to the Antarctic environment, it's also vital to a championship-winning trivia team.
A major award.
The major
Yes.
award.
Well, good morning, everybody, and we are on day 2 of our travel across the Drake Passage, and actually we're below the Drake Passage now, and we're in what's called the Antarctic Convergence Zone. So we're already further south than the South Shetland Islands, but we're out to sea because we're going to cross the Antarctic Circle tonight. So stay tuned. We just won the trivia match, and we'll go get some lunch, and it's going to be another kind of easy day, and thank God, look at these seas laid down behind us.
And of course, it was P-Day for the buffet. Pork, pizza, and potatoes.
Yeah. It's just that's going to go in my pack as the extra. So
That should be good.
So late afternoon and cleared of all of our mandatory activities. It's just a good time to relax. So we found some really nice seas. A little bit of rolling, but the Antarctic Peninsula is over that way. And we're going to head to a spot further down, crossing over the Antarctic Circle at about 10 o'clock tonight. So we'll all be toasting that. But headed to around 66 degrees south latitude. So we're about 63 degrees latitude right now. And honestly, not even wearing my hat. During the nightly briefing, Juan told us where we were headed, which is a place called Red Rock Ridge, and it would be the furthest south any seaborne ship has ever landed passengers if we were able to do it if the ice was clear. So in celebration, of course, let's have a little caviar and drinks with Dan. Dinner's always a treat in the restaurant or the main dining room. But one of the things we hadn't talked about yet is the nightly souffle. Tonight, Lupe is pouring us some Bailey's cream inside this wonderful souffle. Not long after dinner, we all gathered in the Constellation Lounge to celebrate crossing the Antarctic Circle.
In this vast, frozen world, and you are part of this historic adventure. Yes, so as we pass this remarkable latitude, we will mark the occasion with a small ceremony. So if you will humour me, I've put together a few words. So will you repeat after me? Okay. I do solemnly swear.
I do solemnly swear
To embrace the ice, the cold, and the dare.
to embrace the ice, the cold, and the dare.
To sail across waters so wild and wide.
To sail across waters so wild and wide.
and never once let my spirit subside.
And never once let my spirit subside.
With penguins and whales, the seals by my side,
With penguins and whales, the seal by my side.
I pledge to forever remember this ride.
I pledge to remember forever this ride.
Cheers, everyone! We
Cheers!
Okay, we have just crossed over the Antarctic Circle. Cheers! 6650.
20 knots.
21 knots.
Flying.
So we had some time to geek out over our GPS coordinates before finding a nice quiet spot, now up in the club, where we thought Dan was going to perform, but he didn't. So we had one more drink and got back to our cabin, and we're almost too excited to sleep based on where we were on this great big blue planet. But we did have a penguin to greet us, and we knew that tomorrow they'd be real. Good night, everybody.